Could Destiny 2 have absorbed Marathon? Are we looking at a situation where they would take the existing things that are built? There were a lot of incubation projects at Bungie that we heard about, and could they take those projects and put them inside of Destiny 2? Well, if you've been paying attention to Destiny as of late, they just announced their plans for Frontiers. And in my latest video about this, I theorize that Marathon may already have been canceled. Even if it has not been canceled, it does seem as though those spin-off Destiny projects have been repurposed to some degree and will be showing up in these 2 expansions a year in Destiny 2. So make sure and check out that video. I basically walk through the announcements, I walk through what we know, but I also just look at how much has happened with Marathon. And I once again argue that I believe that it should be canceled. There are big questions right now in general about PlayStation's live service games. We don't even really have to talk about Marathon. We could just talk about Concord and the unprecedented thing that happened with that game, getting completely shut down just 2 weeks in and refunding all of the money. Seemingly PlayStation making that call, I would argue the right call, definitely did right by the consumer, but also did right by their brand to say, listen, we've got Astrobot coming, we've got a PS5 Pro announcement coming, we're hearing rumors about a state of play, then they're finally showing up to Tokyo Game Show after not being there for many years and likely going to show up in a big way. The last thing you wanted was Concord sort of hanging in the air as this just terrible headline of a flopped game. And then when you look at games like Fair Games and Marathon, you really have to question and wonder, are they going to fall into a similar lane? Is the market going to be receptive to a PvP-only game, a game that is primarily centered around one type of gameplay, whether it is a hero arena shooter like Concord or a hero extraction shooter like we're hearing in Marathon? There have been a new batch of leaks for Marathon. I watched Astacross's video on it. I'll be honest, those leaks feel incredibly fake. Jason Schreier saying that the feeling about the game isn't good, and then we're also hearing from Tom Henderson saying that Marathon is totally cooked. That very much felt like a fake leak or somebody maybe at the company trying to sort of change the public's perception about the game. But in those leaks, they said they're not heroes. They're like these preset characters that you choose from, and they have different things that, you know, you benefit from. So kind of sounded like heroes, but I get the distinction. I get the difference. I get the nuance. I don't think those leaks are really swaying me in my theory. Like, my theory is that there were a lot of things they were trying to do that were somewhat either attached to Destiny or breaking away from Destiny. And it does seem as though PlayStation walked in the room and said, listen, you need to refocus your efforts on the moneymaker or you're not going to survive. Like, we'll just do what we can to chop you up and get use out of you. You know, there's a lot of talent at Bungie. And I don't necessarily think Sony was that cruel or that crass about it, but basically saying, listen, if you guys can't make enough money, if you can't, you know, make your operating costs at the very least, as Pete Parsons admitted that they ran the company into the red, then you really have to question where they're going to focus their efforts. And hearing things like, oh, we're going to have things coming to Destiny, they're going to be like roguelikes and Metroidvanias and survival shooters, it really starts to make you wonder if all those spin-off projects are now going to be repurposed and put inside of Destiny 2. And so I argue in my video, Marathon could be already canceled. And in this discussion here in this live environment, we can discuss, do you think it's possible Destiny 2 has just sort of consumed Marathon as well as all of these other incubated projects? You know, a roguelike in Destiny, what would that look like? Well, it would look like one of these other games where you're just going to play it and it'll be like a one-off experience or a contained experience where a lot of their development will then still come into play. So make sure and always watch those daily uploads. If you're subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. If you're a member to the channel, you get to start the day in morning coffee. We sort of just kind of kick off the day, hang out, and then we all go watch the upload together, and then we come here. And when you do that, you'll know what I think about the daily topic. And now it's time to hear what you think. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you guys so much for being here. Go through your daily ritual, smash that like button. That helps us out and get us started on the member count. We already had somebody do that. Whenever you renew up and you upgrade, anytime you upgrade to Member Plus, we're going to count it as 2. And Bumble Pants just renewed their Member Plus as well. My badge is now red, just like how August Burns. Yeah, I'm wearing an August Burns red shirt today. I just kind of felt like busting out some of my own personal t-shirts. So thank you guys so much, and thank you for that. And then Tremolo renewed their membership. Thank you guys so much. When you are at Member Plus or VIP, just your renewals count toward the goal. And Han shot first, and so did you. Joker Quinn with the first gifted member of the day puts us at 5, and then we'll see if he can tempt a 20 bomb dunker all the way up to 25, and then I owe the 5 that I do. Thank you guys so much. 15 months from my man Brooklyn. He says, I watch this content so much, LOL, but in all seriousness, glad to be here. Thank you so much, Brooklyn. I appreciate that very much, and that bumps the line to 6. You guys crush it every week, man. So many people have been upgrading the Member Plus. Thank you. We're at the highest we've ever been, so keep doing that. I don't see new players getting into Destiny 2 in any numbers that will make Sony billions that they are looking for. They will keep fishing for their Apex Fortnite rival. See, I don't agree with that, Jesse. I really don't. And this is one of those few times where, man, I really hope you're wrong. I really hope that you're wrong. Because from where I sit, their best course of action with Bungie is to keep them going, keep them operating at, some level of margins, and then start either trying to do something different or start considering building Destiny 3. I know they said that's not in the cards. I know they said that's not what they were ever planning. But if I'm Sony, I'm walking in the room and saying, listen, our best course of action here is to leverage the IP that you have established in the market. It is known. It's a 10-year-old franchise. And to hang that up seems like a terrible, terrible mistake. I think the hubris of Bungie just caught up with them. They thought they were going to have, Destiny TV shows. They thought they were going to have these Destiny spin-off games, adventure games, PvP games. They even apparently have a Destiny mobile game on the way. And I think they thought they were going to turn this into sort of a Leviathan-like title like you see with like a Call of Duty, where they seemingly have every game type under the sun. And I think it ended up harming the core product being Destiny 2. And so I think right now, even the former Bungie lawyer seems to agree that from the outside looking in, it looks like Sony walked in the room and said, you need to refocus your efforts on Destiny. You need to refocus your efforts on the property that makes money. Because the minute I saw that Destiny 2 Frontiers announcement, I was like, wait, where did this come from? I thought that they were putting this game into coast mode. I thought they were putting this game onto, like, you're going to get episodes and you're not going to get expansions. And now you're talking about 2 medium-sized expansions every year. It's like, well, that seems like bandwidth has been reallocated back to Destiny. More than that, it seems like they are repurposing content. Where did this content come from? I want you to ask that question. If they're suddenly planning on doing 2 medium-sized expansions a year, and they're going to be doing things like Metroidvania content, roguelike content, and survival shooter content, that sounds an awful lot like the things that they were doing that were small incubation projects. That doesn't sound like content that they had planned in the pipeline. It doesn't. For all intents and purposes, it very much seemed like Episodes was their move into like, hey, we got to have this game kind of coast so that we can start building the next thing. The next thing being that Payback spin-off game, these other spin-off games, and Marathon. And I believe all of those plans have fundamentally changed. Evan says, Bungie needs to copy Warframe. All the supplemental systems are present in Warframe that never came to fruition in Destiny. Ships, housing, alternative game modes. I don't think at this point you can change the core principles of the game and start bringing things like that in. I don't think it would be worth their efforts. That's not going to change the morale around the game. That's not going to change your player funnel. That's not going to bring in new players. I do think what the lawyer said is super important. He basically said, you need to fix your new player acquisition and you need to start treating it like a franchise. That was his feedback on LinkedIn that I read in my video. And to me, it's like, so I want you to hear what he's saying. He's being critical with firsthand knowledge. This is somebody that was at the company, okay? And he's saying, you need to treat it like a franchise. You haven't been treating Destiny like a franchise up to now. And from his perspective, that's what the Frontiers plan marks, is a shift and a change. Frontiers was announced a while ago, or should I say hinted to? Well, we knew Frontiers was coming, Ghostface, but you have to remember that when they announced the shift to episodes, they were going to go to episodes away from seasons, and there would no longer be annual expansions. That does not sound like you're about to turn into a system where you're getting two medium-sized expansions a year. It really sounded like they were signaling, yeah, we're going to go into coast mode. We've got to start working on these other projects. I think the leaks support that theory. They do. I think Pete Parsons' own blog post supports that theory. They had spun up all these other incubation projects. They had Payback. They had like a sliced off PvP game. They have Marathon. I think there was one other. And all of those projects were basically going to be taking people away from Destiny 2. So you don't move away from seasons, move away from an annual expansion, have all of these other projects going, and then suddenly turn around and say, oh, just kidding, we're going to be doing two medium-sized expansions a year. Something changed. I think what changed was when they did the layoffs and Pete Parsons goes out into the public and says, we were operating the company in the red. We were basically stretching the talent too thin. Well, what's the antidote to that? The antidote to that is to bring everybody back under the same tent and say, we are all working on Destiny. That's why I think Marathon has already been canceled. I think Marathon's team has already been told, listen, you need to bring this stuff underneath the Destiny umbrella. This game won't stand on its own. It won't. The market's proving that that is incredibly risky and incredibly unlikely. That you're going to launch a mode and then it's going to stand on its own. Everybody thought they could build the next Fortnite. Naughty Dog thought it. Firewalk thought it. Like, everybody thought they could build the next game where I don't think they had the delusion of thinking they'd be as popular as Fortnite. I think they had the delusion of thinking we can ship a mode. The Division thought they could do that with the Division Heartland. We'll just ship a mode. Well, that can't stand on its own. We've seen it proven time and time again. How many times do we need the markets to reject a game that's basically just another mode, hoping to cash in on season passes and the live service audience, and it doesn't end up working? So to me, I think they've folded everything under and said, all this needs to stop. This was basically setting the company on a course of destruction, and the antidote to that is to stop doing it. So I don't think they admitted we're operating in the red and then just canceled incubation projects or just brought those people back under the fold of Destiny. I think they also looked at Marathon and came to the same conclusion. Now, I'm open to being wrong on this. I am. I'm open to being wrong. But I can't see the Concord situation not absolutely expediting that decision. PlayStation's not going to have another situation like that. There is absolutely no way they're going to let another one of their studios trot out a mode and then fall flat on its face. A mode that seemingly is trying to chase a trend. Whether it's the extraction shooter trend or in Concord's case, it was the hero shooter trend. Destiny 2 is too shallow. They need the additional systems. No, I mean, listen, this always happens. And while I appreciate your passion, I feel like what your feedback is I feel like your feedback is targeting the wrong thing. You're targeting depth, and you're targeting like all these additional supplemental systems to drive longevity. What you're asking for is you're asking for a company to build a skyscraper when all they really need is a good-sized building. What you're talking about doing is investing large amounts of time in systems and depth that will only be scraped by the smallest portion of the player pool. Like, I think what they need to focus on is the new player experience and creating content elasticity that allows them to create new experiences, so you have the core enjoyable gameplay of Destiny as the undercurrent hook, but then new things are happening. I think they actually have a good idea here with, we're going to be doing stuff that's like a Metroidvania or like a roguelike or, like a survival shooter. I'm here to tell you that that can work. I think that that can shake things up. I don't think suddenly trying to add a bunch of depth would work. You're kind of advocating for what the actual former Bungie lawyer literally pushed against in his feedback. He was basically like, stop building a game for the upper C-suite fans of Destiny. You need to build a game for new players. You need to build something that everybody wants to play, or a larger portion of the gaming public wants to play, and you've not been doing that. So I don't think you can suddenly just start adding depth. Like, I appreciate the passion and the conviction of like, oh, we need to add all the depth that like Warframe has, but who are you building that for? Who? You're losing your committed players as it is. All that depth isn't going to be appealing to a brand new player because they're not a fan yet. Does that make sense? Warframe's far more difficult for new players than D2. Yeah, you try to play Warframe, it's like drinking from the fire hose in the dark. You don't even know what you're supposed to be doing. And listen, the new player onboarding for Destiny 2 right now is absolutely abysmal. My wife has played through it on Friday nights, you guys have seen, and someone's like, oh, well, you skipped this or you didn't do this. And it's like, okay, the game didn't lead us to do that. Like, you know that. The general consensus is that Destiny has terrible onboarding. So when I look at Marathon, and I look at all these incubation projects that they were allegedly working on, like Payback was going to be like a third-person, like open-world cooperative experience with like monsters and puzzles, right? And now we're hearing that there are going to be experiences in Destiny 2 that'll be like a Metroidvania or a roguelike. Like, I legit think what you could do is you could take whatever they built for Payback and just bring it over to Destiny and make it a roguelike environment where, hey, you get to play as one of these characters. Who do you want to play as? Like, they could call it like a hero simulator or something. Like, you go into, like, corridors of time and you're reliving experiences of fallen guardians to learn about the past. And then you go, it's always a different permutation, it's always different abilities that you're getting, so it's like a roguelike, and you're getting to experience that, and you're getting to play content that they already made in the dadgum Destiny universe. They were already, building something to be a spinoff, essentially. Risic with 36 months of memberships. That's a VIP renewal, bumping the membership line to 7, starting out the week strong. Thank you, Risic. If you guys haven't taken a quick second to do so, thank you for the strong turnout today. Smash that like button. Let's shoot for 200 likes. If you guys haven't watched my upload, be sure to go check it out. It's called Marathon Already Canceled. Let's read some of the comments. Somebody says interest was falling because the game has been stale for years. It was strong up until that point, though. Like, Destiny was really, really strong up until that point. I really do. I think it was strong up until the very point where they said, they started to lose interest. People weren't buying and people weren't, signing up. Mint Gothic Chip. Okay, that's a super creative name. Yo, thank you so much for doing a member plus. I'm counting all member pluses and VIPs, right? If you upgrade to VIP, upgrade to Member Plus, or if you sign up brand new, like Mint Gothic Chip just did, I'm counting those as 2. That's how important those memberships are. We need more and more people to do that. Thank you so much for doing that, Mint Gothic Chip. Super creative name. Like mint chocolate chip. Anyway, I'm not explaining it for you. You made the name. I'm explaining it for everybody else. Kingslayer says, I think they should release the game. Fair games as well. Let these companies learn the hard way. Let's not act like we give a darn about Bungie and any of these companies that chase trends but won't listen to player feedback and acknowledge their engagement. They're going to have to come up with a different method for live service games. Coming up with a different method, yes. Launching games will fail? No, I don't agree with that. I do not agree with you, Kingslayer. You have your comments spot on. Like, they've got to learn new methods. They've got to stop trend chasing. But I don't think you get there by launching games if you know they're going to fail. A VIP renewal from Fuzzy. I'm doing my part. You are indeed, sir. 10 members on the week already. Like, I don't think you learn by being like, well, let's just launch it and quote unquote learn our lesson. I do not think that's a good idea. Silent Spartan says, time will tell. I just don't think Sony's audience is going to appreciate PvP-only games in this day and age, especially with the price of gaming going up and all the essential goods. People are being more frugal. Games have to be immaculate, deep, and offer a variety of experiences as well. Helldivers 2 proves what you are saying. I think Helldivers 2 proves what you're saying here. That, like, if you want to do live service, I'm dead serious. I think the frontier, I think the untapped potential, I think the place to go is to start coming up with creative PvE live service games. A $50 super chat from Britt Cormier, that is so generous, says, longtime Destiny 2 and Warframe player. Just the movement in Warframe makes it harder on new players. I agree with you. Not to mention Forma, Catalyst, modules, and mastery rank systems. That is not even getting into the later systems like factions and operator. Again, thank you for the very generous super chat. Very kind. Yeah, I think this is always going to become a problem, okay? I feel like live service games like Warframe and Destiny are like two pyramids stacked on top of each other, but at the points, okay? So you start out with this very broad, very accessible experience at the bottom, and as people climb the summit of the live service game, it starts to get narrow. There's less to do. You have raids, dungeons, nightfalls, but then there's all this other content at the bottom that you're now ignoring. You're not really going into, you know, the public space grind or the strike playlist or adventures. You're not just going into those spaces anymore. You're going into a more narrow content offering, which is fine. What tends to happen is when you get up to the summit, there's a lot of depth there. But then what starts to happen is the game starts to go out from that point like an upside down pyramid now, and it gets bigger and bigger and broader and more depth because you've got systems now. You have all these presumptions you're making about what the player knows and what the player should know how to do and be familiar with. So then when a new player comes into the game and they're all the way down here at the bottom of the very first pyramid, they're like, wow, there's a lot to do. And as they start to climb that summit, they look up and they see this seemingly insurmountable amount of content and depth. And it almost, I think it just overwhelms them. It's like, there's no way. There's just no way. It's like, yeah, I would love to climb the summit of this game and get up here to that small little, deep systems and raids or dungeons or whatever, but then they see that beyond that the game goes back out and gets huge, and it's like loot pools are huge, systems are complex, systems are convoluted, they're not explained, and it's difficult for them to even understand, like, how would I even get up there? Now, to the person that got all the way to the summit of the pyramid, it's like it all makes sense to them. This is why new player acquisition for a game like Destiny or even a game like Warframe is just incredibly difficult because there's just too much. Any player walks to the base of that pyramid and then looks up, they're going to break their neck. They're like, good golly. Like whenever my wife opens up the director in Destiny 2, I just want her to close it. I'm like, I don't even want to look at that. I don't even just close it. Just get out of there. Just go shoot stuff. Is essentially my reaction. So you better make sure your gameplay is just so incredibly good and addicting that it can like override the player's natural inclination to think, this is just, I bit off more than I can chew here. What is this, bruh? Fake news? Watch the video. Infinite with VIP and 27 months says mountain. Yeah, instead of a pyramid, I should just say mountain. Thank you so much. That's 11 members on the week already. Way too much. Yeah, it's just absurd. It's like, I don't even know. And there's good and bad about that. Like, you want to feel like, oh, this game is big and this game is worth investing in, and there's a lot waiting for me to do. But it would be sort of like inviting somebody over to dinner, and you really want them to be confident just how good dinner is going to be. And so you literally set out a place for them at the table, and it's got appetizer, salad, entree, dessert, and then next to it you have basically all of that again. And they're like, wait, who's that for? And they're like, it's all for you. I want you to have a lot of confidence in like my ability to make a really good meal, and you're really going to have great food here. So I've put everything, the whole spreads on the table. They would be like, I couldn't even consume all that food across an entire day, let alone one meal. And so they would basically react negatively to a positive thing. It could be gourmet level cooking. It could be some of the greatest food they've ever set their eyeballs on, but they know realistically what they can consume, and they're like, I'm not going to be able to eat all that. That's kind of like what these live service games are doing, is they're like, look at all of the stuff you can come and do. And somebody's like, yeah, that's good, but it's also too much. Like, I don't want to go, I don't have time for all of that. This can't become my part-time job. That's the reaction, I think. Yo, Silver Subaru gifts a member and takes us to 12 members on the day. Thank you to everybody who has been gifting members or upgrading. Guys, take a quick second and smash that little check your thumbs up button. Make sure you've hit like. It'll help this video find more people. Mint Gothic Chip says, I love Warframe, but it took a while for me to get to an enjoyable point just because of how much time it takes to get to the big storyline. Now, I don't even play very much. I mean, I always think you're going to have games that kind of run their course with you, and getting you to come back, I do think is incredibly difficult. You know. Somebody left a comment on my video here, Kelly Green. Oh, good to see you, Kelly Green. Sounds like Sony doesn't want a repeat of Concord. Agreed. I do. I feel like Concord has changed the equation and the discussion internally. If Concord has not changed the discussion internally at PlayStation with respect to, Bungie and Destiny and live service games, then somebody's failing. I mean that. Somebody is failing. If you are not reconsidering the absolute commercial potential loss of a game like Fair Games or a game like Marathon in the wake of what happened with Concord, if you're not assessing what's going on, really, really great video. She does such great videos. I've watched her videos before. She used to work at Microsoft, and you guys definitely need to subscribe to her channel. I think she's very, very insightful. Her name is Laura Fryer, okay? Literally the word fry, like to fry something, Fryer. That's it, Laura Fryer. Her video, Culture Killed Concord, 155,000 views. She's got 9,000. She's about to hit 10,000 subscribers. Help her hit 10,000 subscribers. Her videos are so insightful and so helpful. She's somebody from the industry. She's well-spoken. She's easy to listen to. I really, really like her. And her video, Culture Killed Concord, I think is a glimpse into what went wrong with Concord. And I think you should watch her video if you're at PlayStation, and then you should go evaluate everything you know about Fair Games and Marathon. Because the concern I have with a game like Marathon is if it's gone through a director change and a game direction change, like they've decided to move away from like your own characters to set characters. Now, whether you want to call those heroes or not, that's superfluous. That's a shift that they have made. And according to this leak, they continue to fly out content creators and continue to fly out people, who are playtesting the game. I want to ask you guys something about that leak, okay? Tell Daddy, Destiny, and Mommy Warframe to stop fighting. I need them both. We're family. I don't care about either of the games to that degree. Here's the point that I want to ask you guys, okay? I want to ask you guys about this leak. You have Jason Schreier sitting on a podcast a month ago or so. He was on Friends Per Second with Skill Up and Lucy and I think was it Baldino? I think it was Baldino. So they're all just sitting there talking. And Schreier says what he says about Marathon. that the feeling at Bungie is not great and that it reminds him of Kill the Justice League. It's like sunk cost, and they're just trying to ship it. The IGN reporting seemed to indicate the exact same thing, that they just want to get the game out the door, and then a bunch of leadership's going to leave in 2026. And then Tom Henderson says Marathon is so cooked. And it was unrelated to the layoffs. He just said from everything he's heard, it's cooked. Now, let me ask you something. In the wake of Schreier saying that, and the IGN reporting, and Tom Henderson saying what he's saying, don't you think if they were consistently flying out content creators, that some of these content creators would go wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and say something to Schreier or Hendy off the record? Maybe, just maybe. I've not asked Tom Henderson this because I would never ask where he's getting his information, right? Protect your sources, Tommy boy. But, so I've never asked him this. I would hazard a guess that a lot of what Tom Henderson heard came in the wake of what Schreier said, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if maybe they have been flying out content creators, and content creators went to Tom Henderson and was like, this game is cooked. It's trash. It's bad. We have two of the most reliable insiders in the gaming industry saying this game's not in great shape, and then you have a random leaker who's like, oh no, it's in great shape, and content creators are coming out and playing it, and it's not going to get canceled. It's like, I don't know who wrote that, but it feels like fan fiction. It feels like cope from either somebody at the company or somebody who just really wants the game to come out. Like, where there's smoke, there's fire. If we've learned that this year, how could you not learn that when these two gentlemen say something, you can take it to the bank and you can cash it? Like, if both Schreier and Tom Henderson are saying the same thing, I would say that's pretty reliable. Like Christopher Walken says in the movie Where I Got My Name, Lono, in Suicide Kings, he says, you know, the word on the street, it's solid. You know, he's like, you'll hear a lot of rumors, you'll hear a lot of this, you'll hear a lot of that. He's like, but the word on the street's solid. Like, if you're talking about our current situation in gaming, the word on the street's usually pretty solid if it's coming from those guys, those two individuals. Yo, Jesse Ritchie gifts a member and takes us to 13 members on the day. Thank you so much. On the week, I should say. I wonder if PSVR 2 is going wireless. They showed a picture by accident showing the PSVR 2 battery icon. Battery icon? Where did you see that? Are you sure it wasn't the controllers? Because the controllers have battery icons next to them. Jesse Ritchie says, I'm Neo. Yeah, Neo. Yo, good morning, Ginger. Both Neo and Feed cannot get members. Wait, somebody said... Oh, Asacross about a year ago said Tarkov players were not impressed with what they played of Marathon. Well, okay, so yeah, about a year ago, right? And then you would hope, like, oh, maybe they've made changes. Oh, that is interesting. Yeah, when they demoed the new dashboard, they have a battery for the standard controller, a battery for the PSVR 2 controllers, and then a battery for the PlayStation VR 2. They're not. It was taken down and put back up. It was a bad edit. Okay, I was going to say somebody might have been playing around with assets and icons and just made a mistake. I'm like, listen, I'm going to be real with you. Making the PSVR 2 wireless would be pointless because you can't unplug the wire from it. Like, it's like attached. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, think about how, like, when you plug a lamp or a vacuum cleaner in and, like, the actual plug, it's attached and won't come out. It's not like your power cable on your Xbox or your PlayStation, how you can, like, unplug it. It's not like that. So making the PSVR 2 wireless would be completely and utterly pointless. You would lose the processing power of the PSVR 2, and you'd still have a wire coming off of it. It would be pointless. Yo, Neo Reaper decides to do a member plus as a brand new member. That bumps us to 15. All member pluses and VIPs. If it's new or an upgrade, I'm counting them as 2. We just now need a 10 bomb to get to the first 25 of the week where I have to gift 5 back. So thank you so much for doing that, Neo. Do it yourself. Do it yourself. That's right. Do it. What are you saying? I can dodge gifteds? No, Feed. I'm saying when you're ready, you won't have to. But listen, like, back to what I was saying about Concord and that video from Laura Fryer and how, you know, and how culture killed Concord. I really do think if you look at the way, and I talk about this in my latest upload. So again, guys, always make sure and watch those daily uploads. It's super helpful to me. We try to do both types of content here because it's very important for YouTube. So really make sure and support those uploads. I know a lot of you guys are like, yo, I kind of vibe with the live show, Lono. Thank you for doing that. That's why we start in the mornings with morning coffee. You get a 30-minute live stream with me. I throw you at an upload. You spend 10 or 12 minutes watching an upload, and then we're back to the live stream hanging out. So thank you to everybody who watches that. And thank you, Joker Quinn, for gifting a member. And it goes to 16. And it goes to Bengals fan. So, you know, it's a shame that it went to a Bengals fan. But we are happy that the gift... I'm just kidding. I don't care. I grew up cheering for the Browns. So frick you, Bengals. No, I don't even actually watch football anymore. But, you know, looking at her video, Culture Killed Concord, and looking at... I talk about in the video, the marathon video, I talk about how live service games are so incredibly paradoxical. They are both loathed and hated and stigmatized, and yet they're the most popular games. You know? Madara with the VIP renewal says, totally agree on canning on a living marathon. After the failure of the $280 million from Concord, Sony needs a big win and a super PR turnaround. And that bumps the line to 17 members already on the week. Thank you guys so much for all those great renewals. If the live service games are so paradoxical, they're the biggest games. Whether it's World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV or Fortnite or Call of Duty or any of the other offshoots that aren't as big but are still incredibly popular. Apex, Valorant, PUBG, Deadlock's on the rise. So it's like these games are super popular. And yet, every time a live service game pokes its head out, everyone goes, we don't want that live service slop. Live service is ruining the industry. It's like Schrodinger's video game. It's both hated and highly engaged with. It's both incredibly profitable, and yet we've seen some of the biggest flops ever in the live service realm. Whether it's Anthem or recently Concord or the graveyard of battle royales that tried and failed, and yet also some of the biggest and most played games. It's such a paradox. It's such a contradiction. And this is why I think the difficulty going forward for these companies is how can you tell which way's up? It's like the market's yelling at us and screaming at us that they don't want this crap, and then Helldivers 2 is like one of the fastest selling PlayStation games in history. It's like, what? People don't hate live service, they never have. They hate bad live service with a passion. I 100% agree with you. But that's not how it's communicated. Right? The communication, the YouTube videos, the thumbnails, the headlines are live service, you know, is killing the industry. Live service is garbage. Can't tell you how many times I've heard people crapping on live service games and talking about how much they hate live service games. Oh, no, I'm sorry. People sitting in a live service game while talking crap about a live service game, for sure. Helldivers 2 was made different, though. Imagine that you are a decision maker. Imagine that you have been tasked with distinguishing the differences between why Helldivers 2 succeeded and Concord imploded at a breakneck speed. Imagine that that's your job. Like, there's obvious differences, but I don't think we can just strip it down to only the obvious differences. Like, oh, well, PvE is superior. Listen, I prefer PvE games, and I think that's too minimalistic. I think that's too reductionistic to be like, well, it's PvE, and that's why. That's why it's better. Yes and no. We talked about this a little bit on Friday night with respect to Astrobot. Astrobot's not a live service game. Look, that's not what I'm saying, so just track with me here. Astrobot is getting insane praise and adulation and love, and it landed at a time when we've had a pretty long stretch where we haven't had a game like that, especially when you consider its most direct comparisons from the very beginning, from both myself and others, is Mario Galaxy, right? So, I believe your video game gets a potency injection when there's been like a long time, and it's like nobody's really seen a game like that in a while. Or if they have, they've been smaller or they've been lesser known, right? So I think Astrobot is at a significant high level of quality, charming, fun, amazing. I'm at the very last challenge level now. I got all 300 bots and all that. But I think it gets a potency injection and just a boom, boost in the rocket fuel to when we've had a long time without a game like that. Enter stage left Helldivers 2. I think Helldivers 2, well built, fun, solid game. It went viral. It had comedic appeal, okay? It had a lot in its corner, but I think it gets a bump in potency and relevancy potency because we haven't really had a game like Helldivers in a really long time. It harkens back to another era. Enter stage right Concord. And it's like, get out of here! Why? It's just so much recency. It's like, get out of here. You look and smell like Overwatch. You look and smell like Destiny. You look and smell like other games. So it gets no traction at all. I think that's part of the equation as well. Like, if I'm trying to assess the differences and I'm trying to, like, give counsel to a decision maker, that's what I would say. I was like, this is why you don't trend chase, because all you're doing is saying, we made a cheeseburger too, and they're like, yeah, who cares? I can get a cheeseburger anywhere. Dan Zatasik with 36 months on a member plus. Good morning. Also, Kick Butt t-shirt. You think Marathon would be better off if they released it in early access with supporter packs like Warframe did? Thank you for 3 years of support. Guys, make sure and upgrade your memberships. We have found that if you're trying to upgrade your membership on an iPhone, if you go incognito in your browser and then request the desktop site and log in, that seems to be the trick. Even for people who are like stuck on a gifted, we had people who are quite literally stuck on a gifted and could not upgrade. That's a trick that seemed to work for some people. So thank you to everybody who has been doing that. And then a $5 super chat tip from Street Shadow says the general public doesn't care about a game if it's live service or not. General public accounts for the bulk of sales. People don't know what they want. Yeah, but I think what you're saying really dovetails with what I just kind of ranted about, in that if you trend chase, you're basically setting your game up for, I'll call it recency deflation, right? Helldivers 2 and Astrobot got vacancy inflation. You see what I'm doing? Do you see my point? I just came up with this just now. Vacancy inflation is there's a vacancy in the market. We haven't had a game like this in a long time, and it creates this inflated amount of enjoyment, praise, and it gives the game just more potency. It's like, oh, this is so fun. There was nothing incredibly novel about Helldivers 2. Nothing life-changing. Good summer blockbuster fun. That's what it was. Same with Astrobot. It got vacancy inflation. It's like we haven't had a game at this level of quality in like the platformer kind of like Mario Galaxy realm. We haven't had a game like this in a while. Super Mario Brothers All-Stars last year was great, but it was 2D. Literally the first trailer I saw of Astrobot, I got super excited. I was like, oh my gosh. It reminds me of Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. Those are some of my favorite game memories with my wife. So there's vacancy inflation and there's recency deflation. It's like, we've just played a game like that. So what you're doing is you're setting up the game to fail, because people are like, I just came out of a game like that. Like, when you went and played Concord, it's like, in the last 12 months, you played a game that was very similar to it. Guaranteed. You had played a game like Overwatch or Destiny or some approximation of a game that had like similar touch points of game feel. Then I think that hurts you. Spartan with 12 months in a VIP. I vehemently disagree with a lot of your takes, but I'm happy to help support you. Your show is a staple in my day, and I appreciate that you exist. Here's the next 12. A whole year and a VIP renewal bumps the line to 19. That's very kind, man. I appreciate it. I wish more people would hang out here who disagree with me. I think it makes for a more enjoyable show. James Mansfield left a comment on my upload. If you guys haven't watched my video, Marathon already canceled. I theorize that it's already been canceled. He says, as far as I'm concerned, the Bungie that was is now dead, or at least a former shell of itself. Many feel that way. I think a lot of people feel that way. I think a lot of people also feel that Bungie never existed. What did he just say? Did Lono just say Bungie never existed? Yeah, they never existed. The Bungie on Twitter and the Bungie in their blog posts, the virtuous Bungie on the steed, it was all a mirage. It never existed. The company has never been the reality of Bungie. Never. They've been an egotistical, drunk on hubris, self-righteous, toxic company for a long time. I don't think that company ever existed. I think it's why they wanted everybody to think that's who they were. They were projecting an image that was the antithesis of what they were. They were compensating, right? Like little man syndrome buying a Hummer. It was like, yeah, I see right down to your bone marrow. That's not who they are. And it never has been who they are. It's been a mirage. So if you feel like your sense of who Bungie was has been shattered and destroyed, no. The projector has just stopped working and the hologram disappeared. And the man behind the curtain is grotesque. And frankly, I think that's good. I think they should be exposed for what they are. And I don't think that exposure is done. I think we've only begun to see. I think we've only begun to see what that company's really about. If Sony is truly and genuinely kicking in the door, just wait. Just wait. There are graveyards of skeletons that'll get pulled out. With all due respect, your take on Bungie is somewhat compromised by your past experiences with them. I think for the general public, they've been good. I think I have probably been the single most objective and fair person to that company in light of everything that's happened to me. So invoking that is both hilarious, but also demonstrative of how fair I have been to them. I've taken up for them in the areas where they deserve to be taken up for. And I don't have to do that at all. Never scorched the earth. Never. I never scorched the earth. I only speak on what is factual. And we have seen them for what they are. I called it when the IGN puff piece was published in 2021. I said, this is a puff piece. This company's toxic retaliation culture is still well in place. It took 3 years, but I was proven right. With enough time, it always comes out. I'm telling you. I've been the most fair to that company. I've never licked their boot, and I've never scorched the earth. In light of everything that happened to me, I think I get a little bit of credit for how I've handled covering them. And someone like Christopher Barrett. Like, do you really think they're the virtuous company they've always postured? Do you really think so? Do you remember when all the stuff at Activision was going on and they were out here puffing their chest out in the market? Yeah, we're not like that. Sure, Jan. Somebody at the time said, start the clock. They said, start the clock. Listen, this is why I think it's good. Sony's walking in the door. And according to a former Bungie lawyer, Sony's basically like, y'all need more discipline. Y'all need to start treating Destiny like a franchise. And I think the method of them doing that is reversing what Pete Parsons was doing. Pete Parsons spread the talent too thin. Do you guys remember what they thought they were going to do with Destiny? Do you remember? They promoted Luke Smith to like above the franchise itself, because what were they going to do? Do you remember? They were going to do TV shows. They were going to do movies. They were going to open up like new studios. They were going to get into like publishing. Dude, they thought that they were like they flew too close to the sun. They Icarused it up. Right? They shrewded it. No, they Icarused it up. They got too close to the sun. And now that Sony's in the room, a former Bungie lawyer is like, yeah, this is how you should treat your franchise. Did you see what he said? The most interesting thing that he said was to stop doing fan service for your C-suite fans. And I was like, what? And then I really started to think about something. The people that kept driving decision-making at Destiny and the people that kept driving content structure for Destiny were like the old guard. We all love that term, don't we? Maybe I should use the term old uniforms. I like that better. The old uniforms were basically building a game that they thought was great and was awesome. And then eventually what happened? Eventually people started saying like, this is just the same thing over and over again. Like, we're not innovating. We're not creating anything new. And listen, the former lawyer said, listen, this is what needed to happen. You needed somebody to come in without bias to say, this is how you treat a franchise. You're not treating this like a franchise. I thought what he said was incredibly insightful and so aptly timed. It's like they put out this post about like, what's it called? I wanted to say Fair Games, but that's the other game that we're not talking about. We're talking about Marathon and Destiny. Frontiers. They put out this post about Frontiers, and then this guy gets on his LinkedIn. He was like, something changed. What did we say last week when they published that post? What did we say? We're like, yep, something changed. So I got a former attorney from the company agreeing with what we said last week. It was like, yeah, something changed. This was not what they were going to do. This was not what they were going to do. And I think he can sense it because he used to work there. Bungie's the corporate equivalent of where's my hug? Cute tweets and emotional blog posts can only hide so much. Yeah, thank you for the $5 super chat. It's like the Wizard of Oz. You saw the man behind the curtain and knew he was a fraud. The general public still see the wizard who can make dreams come true. Most people don't see Bungie as the bad guy. You phrased it in a way where you felt like they have done a lot of good and they're still good. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Jeff, okay, he's beefing with the parody site. Keeley went a little too hard on the PS5 Pro, and he's getting some grief for it. They did an article on him. Well, that site's fake, obviously. Hard Drive did an article, and it was like a truck full of cash, and it was like Jeff Keighley, leaving the PlayStation 5 Pro reveal or something like that. He went a little hard in the paint. And it's always hard to know. He does that with a lot of things. Like an announcement will happen and he'll just flood your timeline. He will flood your timeline during anything. We should probably go back and see if he did the same thing during the Nintendo Direct. I think he just generally does that. But since it wasn't like a barrage of games. It was just like a barrage of information about a console. It didn't look very good. It was like, man, Jeff, you're really going hard in the paint for PlayStation right now. You might want to chill. You might want to chill out, bro. Like, I can't wait for it. I'm literally called a pony, and I sent like 3 tweets maybe over the span of 3 days. This guy sent like 8 in the span of an hour. Some people are blind about what they always wanted Destiny to be and not what it is. Well, and this is why I think that Destiny has consumed Marathon. Is Marathon canceled? Are we guessing? I believe it has been internally canceled. It's my own theory that I uploaded a video about today. I believe they've canceled it already. Yes. Let me make my case. Pretend I'm a lawyer. Lawyers, I'm going to TV lawyer, okay? So don't get too upset about this. But you know when they do their closing remarks? I'm going to do like closing remarks, okay? So I'm going to stack up everything that I tried to trot out in that video to point to the fact that my spidey sense, my gut instinct, the hairs in the back of my neck, right? All of that, to me, I'm going to stack all these things up to say, this is why I think this thing has been canceled. Okay, Zubair will allow it. All right. So we're going to start with the initial reveal being not bad, but strangely inflated. Like the one trailer seems strangely inflated, like they put it somewhere and the viewership's just insane, completely disconnected from the like and the dislike ratio. That was like a weird anomaly. Not all that compelling. But then we find out in the strangest way possible that the directors have changed as well as the direction of the game. And that is met with immediate negative response that it's going to be a hero shooter. Does Bungie do anything to speak to this? No. Does Bungie post an update to clarify anything? No. That to me is big ol' red flag number 2. Like, what? You have an IGN report claiming director change and direction change, and you don't say anything, and you make him announce the change. Right? No announcement about Creepy Barrett. No, we're not going to say anything about that. We're going to keep that hush-hush. Surprise, surprise, right? Their favorite thing to do is to brush things under the rug. So that's red flag number 2. Red flag number 3 is that we finally find out why Barrett was walked out the door. That's got to be an absolute morale killer for the team to find out that they were told he was on sabbatical, and no, actually, he was investigated, and it sounds like Sony was the means of this happening, likely one of the people protected all the way back to 2021, based on timeline analysis from how everything played out. I'll get to the super chat in a moment, Street Shadow. That's red flag number 2. I'm sorry, 3. Red flag number 4. Jason Schreier, notable and trustworthy insider. He says on the Friends Per Second podcast that the feeling around that game at the office is not great and that it reminds him of Kill the Justice League. A lot of sunk cost, just ship it. Now, this statement by itself would be concerning, but then it corroborates the IGN reporting, because the IGN reporting from earlier this year indicated that Marathon was basically going to be shipped just because they wanted to get it out the door, and that there was a growing fear that leadership would leave the company when the final amortized payment from PlayStation hits in 2026. What red flag are we at now? 4 or 5? I've lost count, and I'm not done. In the wake of Schreier saying that, Tom Henderson comes out and says, Marathon is cooked. It's totally cooked. And he says this unrelated to the layoffs. He says, just from what he's heard. So I want you to take all that and just set that to the side and say, this all looks really bad about the likelihood of this game coming to market. I'm not done. Then, one of PlayStation's first attempts at live service is one of, unquestioningly, unquestionably one of the worst flops in live service history. One of the worst. And it falls flat on its face so severely that PlayStation cancels the game and issues refunds. Slide that up next to the stink around Concord. I'm sorry, the stink around Marathon. Not done yet. Bungie, after saying that they were moving away from seasons to episodes and not doing annual expansions anymore, walks out their Frontiers plan. And anybody with even the slightest bit of insight says something has changed at the company. A former Bungie lawyer quite literally says this is a sign that Sony walked in the room and made changes. And it seems as though they're describing content that is pulling from these incubated projects that Pete Parsons talked about in the Bungie blog. So you've got Sony walking in the room, investigating, getting rid of Barrett, the director of the game. Sony also seems to be in the room, refocusing efforts on Destiny, shifting talent around. You've got leadership at Sony saying that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be restructuring. So when you stack all this up, to me, it's just like a big, giant, flashing sign that says, Marathon's been canceled. And I'll do you one better. As this live stream's entertaining, I believe it's been absorbed into Destiny. Why? Well, they said they're going to be putting content into Destiny 2 with this seemingly change of direction out of nowhere, where all of a sudden they're going to be doing 2 expansions a year. And what kind of content are they going to be putting into Destiny? Metroidvania? Roguelikes? And survival shooters. Man. That sounds an awful lot like all those incubated projects suddenly found a home inside of Destiny 2. And one of those, I think, is Marathon. Because extraction shooters heavily lean on survival shooter mechanics. That's it. Those are my closing remarks. Make up your own mind. Do you think Marathon's been canceled or not? Absorbing an extraction shooter into Destiny is actually not a bad idea. What better way to use Destiny? Think about like what Fortnite does, right? Like Fortnite's almost like a playground for people to like make game modes in. Like what if Destiny just becomes that? Like they're just constantly kicking out content that's new and fresh and different and just like a fun vibe. And all you got to do is download the game for free and decide to buy that expansion and just try it out. Destiny seemed to be going on life support. It's being wheeled into the ER. All this trouble without even seeing the gameplay. I'm not sure what you mean, Danaheim. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Hang on. I got to thank these other super chats. Street Shadow. I'm sorry. I had to make you guys wait. I didn't want to interrupt my train of thought. $5 super chat. I respect the idea that if it's canceled, but the counterpoint, there was a big leak about a week ago. The hero shooter side was kind of debunked. I think the leak is fake. I think the leak is fake. Do you want to know why I think the leak is fake, Street Shadow? Jason Schreier said what he said on Friends Per Second. Tom Henderson said what he said. And then dead silence from apparently all of these content creators who are being flown out to play the game. None of them are talking to these insiders. I know who they talk to. Oh, I think I know. I think they talked to Tom Henderson, and I think that's why Tom Henderson said it's cooked. So I think there have been people that have been flying out and playing the game, and I don't think it's in good shape. And I think all that's been put on hold. A 5 spot from David M. Been here since Kingsfall. The old Bungie's long gone. Thank you, David M, for the $5 super chat. And a 2 spot from John Always. Did they ever confirm Marathon's engine Tiger? I don't know if that was ever confirmed. Guys, do me a quick favor. Let's get 300 likes. Huge turnout today, right? That lawyer literally said, F you Destiny content creators. LOL. BS video. It is a theory. Maybe watch it. It's just a theory. There's a question mark on the thumbnail, you big babies. Why do people want Marathon so bad? Why do people want Marathon so bad? It's not your girlfriend or your mother. Like, I'm just theorizing that it might have been canceled. Everybody just gets so upset every time we talk. Well, not everybody. There's a portion of people that get upset. Inatria? I don't think Inatria's demo wowed anybody that extremely, but yeah, it releases this week. People just want a new game, says Ginger. The same reason people want other games. They're looking forward to a game in that genre. I mean, I guess that's fair. Johnny says, people act like Marathon wasn't a game that existed before they were born. I mean, I'll be honest. I think there are people who probably are like, yo, it looks fun. Well, maybe not looks fun because we haven't seen gameplay. No Cat Podcast loves your comment. Yo, Lamau. I think Creature went over and commented on the video. No Cat Podcast put me in a rap song. If you'd have told me one day, Lono, you're going to be in a YouTube video rap song about a console and you're going to use the word bloviate, I'd have been like, yeah, right. That sounds like a Mad Lib. FCat says, because it's coming to Xbox. If it's canceled, Bungie becomes all PlayStation Studio. Do you think that hasn't already happened at some level? Like, I think they're already trying. I think Sony's licking their lips. So, like, there's a lot of talent over there. They're like, let's get them. But I also think they're saying, you got to refocus your efforts on Destiny. This old man remembers our disappointment when we learned that Microsoft bought the company that made Marathon. Oh, because what was it? Did you not like the game, Zubair? I don't know why people want a D3 either, says Jay. Destiny tried to sunset weapons armor and everybody had meltdowns. That's essentially what making D3 is. I think there's a difference, though, Jay. I appreciate the observation, but I think you're forgetting that people will make exceptions when it's a brand new game. If it's the exact same game and you're just kind of adding on to it, I think people take offense to that. I don't think people expected to walk into Destiny 3 with their god roll weapons and use them all the way to the end game. Like, I understand what you're saying. I think, it's kind of like a whimsical observation, but I also think you're forgetting that people will accept a loot table reset when they go into a new game. Like, nobody was upset about that in Destiny 2. We expected it. I think the frustration with Destiny 2 Vanilla was that it was static rolled weapons. It was like, what the heck are we grinding for then? No, we like Marathon. It was one of the few games on the Mac. Microsoft buying it meant we weren't going to... Oh. Yeah, that you are old-timer on that one. Butter says, you think Destiny's going to do what Fortnite did? Main game is stale. Let's do an experiment. I mean, honestly, for now, Butters, I would call it a stopgap. They're taking content or ideas that they've already built or teams that have already invested in things, and they're trying to recoup what they've built. I don't necessarily think that's their long-term plan. I think it's what they can do right now. Somebody walked in the room and said, what can we do right now to keep this engine going and to keep making money? And somebody said, we've built a lot of stuff that could just be retrofitted into Destiny, and then you could actually have some decent content to release and sell. I feel like it's a stopgap. I feel we got to do this to figure out what we're really going to do with the property and with the company. What do you do with an 800 to 900 some odd sized company if their game is on the way out? I tell you what you don't do. You don't keep Bungie's lights on with Marathon. There's just no way. I'm here to tell you, the market trends and the market saturation and the market reaction, there is not a future where Marathon garners enough of a player funnel to support an 800 to 900 some odd person studio. If Destiny is truly on that decline, you got to figure out what to do with all these people. What are you going to do with everybody? You got to you got to be generating revenue. You have to have something in the market that's making money. Now we know a small team or a reasonably sized team is making a Destiny mobile game. you know. And if they put that in the right markets, it could make them some good money. Mobile games tend to do that. And there was a willingness for them to sell exotics. And what was it, the Korean market where they were doing that in Destiny? There's like a completely extra NPC in Destiny. I believe it's in the Korean market. So like certainly Destiny mobile in the right market, like you hit Asia at the right momentum, and they could print money in that game. But what are you going to do with all these people, man? That's a lot of people that you have to pay. The operating cost of a company that size is very high. Not saying for Destiny to do a battle royale, but look at No Man's Sky. They've been adding Light No Fire content into the game to test it. Seems like Sony decided to try what they're doing. I mean, that's not a bad theory, Butters. Like, if you throw everything that you have at the wall in Destiny 2 and you basically record player feedback, you could basically say, this has received the greatest interaction and feedback. This should influence what we build next. Yeah, the Korean version of Destiny, you can buy power, right? I recall hearing about a third-person adventure Destiny spinoff. Yeah, it was what Payback was. Payback was not Destiny 3. It was a spin-off open-world third-person adventure game with like monsters and puzzles, and you'd play cooperatively. Wouldn't be surprised if something like that shows up in Destiny 2 in one of these expansions. Isn't one of them called Behemoth? One of these expansions is called Behemoth. Sounds like that could be centered around some pretty big monsters in the Destiny world that you gotta go kill. Doesn't need to be third person, but you could certainly go into that environment and give you a whole lot of weaponry and stuff that puts you in third person, like scorch cannons and swords. I don't know, dude. I'm just making some observations here. You know? Behemoth sounds like it could be where we finally see if I'm right. Now, this first one's called Apollo. I mean, that's super generic, so I don't know. A 5-spot from Gilgamesh says, I've always said the Resistance 2, that Resistance 2's co-op mode and mag were ahead of its time. It's frustrating because the IPs and potential are there. Timing is key. Payback got spun into another company inside of SIE. I don't think that was ever stated. I believe there was an unnamed project that happened with Broken Earth. I don't think that happened with Payback. Bungie's running out of nouns. They already used the term Behemoth for a subclass and a battleground. Behemoth is a Titan stasis class. Do you think they would do an expansion based off of that? Wasn't that Gummy Bears? Gummy Bears was a MOBA that got straight up canceled. I'm fairly certain that Gummy Bears got straight up canceled. It's just a project name. Oh, it's just a code name. These are just code names, right? Not official release names. Destiny 2 Frontiers. I think what Sven's saying is important. Let's double check ourselves. Code name. Yes. Yes, Sven is correct. They are not releasing the expansion called Behemoth. But again, it still connects to my theory. They've internally decided to call one of the expansions codename Behemoth. Come on. Come on. You had a spin-off game with monsters, and now you've suddenly got an expansion codenamed Behemoth after we learned that all that stuff got stopped. Matter got canceled, but Gummy Bears was spun out into a separate studio. I thought I heard the exact opposite of that. That Gummy Bears was canceled, and I thought Matter was the mobile version that they're the mobile thing they're building. Apollo finna be a banger? Well, based on what though? What do you think it's gonna be? Behemoth? No, it's Behemoth. don't think I've ever seen anybody pronounce it Behemoth. Sony could sell Bungie back to Microsoft out of kindness. Thank you for the 2-spot, GP. Guys, take a quick second, smash the like, help us with the member goal. If you got a member to celebrate, there it is. Dodevas is going to do it. That's going to round us out nicely to 20. And if this man does his monthly ritual, we're on our way. 33 months from Dodevas. Good morning, chat. Enjoying the show, Lono. Keep it coming, my man. And there he does it. The 5-bomb, the first 5-bomb of the day from Dodevas. His monthly ritual is to renew his member and gift 5. That's our first 25 of the week, and I owe you guys 5. I'm going to jump right on and do it right now. It says Behemoth. Stop. Gummy Bears is the new Sony Studio game. Okay. Well, I didn't really report on Gummy Bears or Matter. And there's the Agent of Chaos from Gorthysis pushing us past 25 and setting us on the next milestone. If we get to 50, I owe you 5 more. You guys need about 100 members a day to hit the weekly goal. It turns Friday night into a community game night. And we are also working on a really, really excellent milestone. If you guys upgrade to a VIP or if you upgrade to a Member Plus, it counts as 2. So right now, if you guys sign up for a brand new membership, or if you decide to become a member, make sure you pick Member Plus or VIP. It counts as 2. We are currently at 550 Member Pluses and above. We're trying to get to the 600 milestone. Apollo and Behemoth expansions are just a return to Dark Below. The difference is they have the free seasonal content. This was always the plan to cut down the annual expansion costs, my guess. And a 9-month Member Plus renewal from Justin. Thank you so much. That bumps the line to 27. Sony got what they wanted from Bungie. They got the talent. Same thing with Concord. That's why they made these acquisitions. You want the talent. The talent can always create IP. Something I have to remember to do whenever I watch your stream is change the quality from auto to direct 1080. They do that just to save on bandwidth because a lot of people won't catch it, and so they'll bump people's quality, and they won't notice it. It's actually good for the servers. I mean, you think about the millions of people a day that don't catch it, right? They get to save on that. Your Space Marine 2 on PS5 keeps crashing. I've not seen reports of that. Mr. Hellgate says, Sony is really unlucky with these service studios. Firewalk, Bungie, Haven, Deviation. Everything is only creating flops and drain money. I think they wanted the talent more than the games. That's a very timely comment on the upload from Mr. Hellgates. Guys, make sure and check out the upload. Marathon already canceled, ? Be sure to hit like and leave a comment on those uploads every day. It helps us out. If there's any meaning behind the projects, Apollo Mission 1 was to explore unexplored places, so it makes sense that the expansion's likely going to the new solar system. Right, according to what people think they're going to do with the story. I think that's a good guess, Sven. Behemoth is probably in line with what you're predicting, again, if the project names have meaning behind them. I think they do. And I think it wouldn't surprise me at all if Apollo takes us to that new solar system, and then Behemoth is, a particular planet with these big monsters that you got to go fight and do puzzles and everything else. And then that's going to be basically Payback getting incorporated into the game. An ABR shirt, heck yeah. I have a scar on my elbow from moshing. Dude, I've seen them live so many times. They're so good. Thanks for the membership. Dat Guy D, welcome in, man. Thank you for getting here enough to get a membership. It would appear that it was Gummy Bears. Payback wasn't in a new universe. Yeah, Payback was set in the Destiny universe. You were basically going to play as, heroes from Destiny's universe. You think we leave the solar system in Apollo? What was the game that Mark Cerny was helping with? I don't know if Mark Cerny was helping with the game. He's more of an engineer. He's like an engineer for the hardware side of PlayStation. He's like the... What's his official title? I don't think he would be helping with a game. I mean, maybe he is. I don't know. Wow. 20 new subscribers already today, guys. Thank you so much for hitting subscribe and the bell button. I greatly appreciate it. If you're coming from other videos or other spots on YouTube, if you remember me from my days on Twitch, glad to have you back. Yo, Derek's in the chat. Where's this guy been? Guy traveling the world, you know, with a mustache that we were going to have an intervention about. But other than that, he's traveling the world and he's having a great time. Good to see you. Good to see you, brother. As someone who wears facial hair, we're going to have to talk. We're going to have to talk about that mustache, bro. He could easily be in the background on a game dev. Yo, what's good, Chakotay? Long time no see. Mark Cerny helped make this 2600 game. No, I don't think so. Nuptials tomorrow, so it was with a goal in mind. Oh, okay. So it's coming off tomorrow, if I'm understanding. Mark Cerny used to work on the Sony Ice team, which made games and helped work on games. Oh, I didn't know that. So is he actively working and helping on a game right now? Is there a game he has helped on in recent years? Well, I'm seeing he was executive producer of Miles Morales' Rift Apart in the first Spider-Man, but like, what does that even mean? He's not like, is he actively working on a game when he's an executive producer? That's a pretty high level position, is it not? Divisive says, Reforge, I just heard the song. King Thrash and Sick Humor always do the best console war songs for what it's worth. Dude, I don't think I ever thought I would be sampled in a rap song about a console. It was truly... I hope I haven't peaked. I hope my career hasn't peaked. You know what I'm saying? Like, main stage, E3, 2092, interviewing developers, hosting and shoutcasting major Fortnite events in downtown New York, you know, for Intel and Microsoft, and getting featured in a rap song about console wars. Like, I really hope I haven't peaked, you know. Glad to check in. Always fun to see friendly names. Yeah, man. I was glad you're posting pictures on Facebook because I'm like, I don't know what the frick he's doing. People are like, where is he? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm so incredibly busy. My spare time is spent sleeping. I don't have spare time for anything right now. Not like us. Gamer Remix featuring Lono. Yeah, we don't want you to say gamer no more. Or maybe we don't want to hear you say next gen no more. Somebody's got to do the parody on that one. Come on now. Why don't you go on tour with Hide Your Kids, Hide Your Wives guy? What? Why would I go on tour with that guy? Oh, man. This is in Chicago. Which one did you go to? Oh, you guys are talking about ABR concerts. We had paperwork to do in Bangkok and family stuff to do in the countryside, so it's been busy. For sure, I bet. Yo, Steven Marston bumps the membership line. I slept my way to 3 years. There it is. VIP renewal takes us to 28. Let's get 2 single gifteds, man. Let's tempt them. Let's see if any of the big boys are around. Bump that to 30. Let's see if we can't summon one of the monsters. He's worked on other games like Jak and Daxter as well. Okay. Yeah, I was not aware that Cerny was like executive producer on some of the bigger games from PlayStation. I just assumed he was like the hardware guy, which as executive producer, you know, maybe he's helping to oversee and ensure that, you know, tech is properly being leveraged by the teams. He made one of the best games in history, Marble Madness, and people doubt Cerny. Those who can't do, teach. Those who can't teach, teach Jim. Those who can't game, stream a talk show. Those who can't stream a talk show, well, here's Lono. Broken Earth says, the more we learn about the incubation projects Bungie has going, the more confused I get. It doesn't seem like they were working on anything of real substance in the background. Single Gifted from Patrick Q says, all right. He says, let's do it. He says, let's do it. Let's nudge that member line to 30. Thank you very much. To me, you know what it feels like, Broken Earth? I really do feel like it was under the umbrella of the hubris that Bungie thought we're going to become the next like household name with a game type everywhere. I think it was all under that umbrella of hubris. Let's make an open world action adventure Destiny. Let's make a spin-off PvP Destiny. Let's they thought they were going to turn into like Johnny Appleseed with their IP. Seed a project, seed a project, seed a project. And what they did was they harmed the product that they were trying to seed with. If you go from plus to VIP, it counts. I'll count it. Every upgrade counts as 2. I'll count it. I will. If you upgrade to Member Plus, it counts as 2 in the count. If you upgrade to VIP, it counts as 2 in the count. I'll do it. So, to me, that's what I think they're doing. I think they're essentially saying, this is what they were saying. I'm sorry. They had so much confidence in the IP of Destiny that it led them to overreach. It was like, we're going to seed all these projects with Destiny because Destiny's king. And then Destiny starts to decline in interest, and it's like, ooh. If you put your rights in colander, you effed up. It's like, you know, I just hear Uncle Roger saying, you effed up. It's like, you effed up. Like, you shouldn't have done that. Maybe you could have seeded one project. But Destiny itself, you could sense it, right? I think the community started to sense it. It was like, we're not getting the focus we used to get. We're not getting new ideas. We're not getting innovation. We're getting minimum viable product 8 or 9 years into the life cycle of the game. Well, it's because you were seeding other projects with your talent. Like Pete Parsons says in the blog post, they stretched their talent too thin and they started operating in the red. It's all connected. It's all a part of the same trajectory. And listen, if you're Sony and you've kicked the door in, that's the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, we don't just want the bandwidth to come back to Destiny. What can you bring back to Destiny? Can you bring any of the stuff that you built? Toasted Notes. Wait, Toasted Notes, is that an upgrade or is that just a renewal? Because it says welcome to VIP. I'm gonna count it as 1 unless you correct me. I'm gonna bump the line to 30. That's what we wanted. We wanted 30. Because we just need a 20 bomb to 50. We'll see if we can't tempt any of the big boys to drop a 20. Or maybe some tag team partners on the 10 bombs. We'll see it. It's funny, I hadn't listened to the last couple NCPs, No Cap podcast, but for some reason I saw the topic and I listened, and then boom, there goes Lono spitting facts on a beat. We'll do another collab. I'll give him some just blazing hot rants they can use. You know what I'm saying? I'll gladly give them material. Listen, there's enough salt and hate content about me. You know, let's balance it out. Let's balance it out. You'll be surprised if Bungie doesn't let more staff go, says Paul. PlayStation 5 co-creator Mike Cerny is assisting Jade Raymond's... What? I don't know what that is. Let me use this computer. I swear, sometimes I open these articles and it makes us drop frames. Jade Raymond's Haven Studios. Okay. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know how much he's going to be able to contribute to these games, guys. Like, if you spread the man so thin, like, there's only so much he can do, right? Philip says Lono is always right. Marathon will be canceled. Whoa, whoa, whoa. My batting average isn't perfect. It's good, but it's not perfect. I've had some misses before. Let me reset Q&A. Guys, we always do, well, we not always do. We try to regularly do 30 minutes of members-only Q&A. Right now, if you want to ask me a question about anything in gaming news, it doesn't have to be about Bungie, Marathon, or Destiny. You can submit that question right now with the question command. I'll feature it right here. We might start repurposing these questions for videos. I saw Digital Foundry doing that with their Clips channel, and I thought we were going to maybe try to use questions for shorts. But if it's a really good question, and I feel like we have a really good discussion, we might start using that. So if you're asking questions about all kinds of things going on in the gaming industry, we might end up using your question for a video. Ann says, longtime lurker, Twitch early era. Will you ever go back to playing Destiny from scratch on a new account? No. I have no interest in doing ban evasion, because I would not give that company the power to hurt me, because they've taken every opportunity to do it when it was afforded to them. So, no. I would gladly go back and play the game if they would just reverse it. There's no reason to keep it enforced. It was a unjustified dev ban, and I was never given a reason. Just reverse it. I don't friggin' care. Considering Destiny 3 could be years out, I'm not sure anyone would care. I mean, that's part of my theory, is that what they would be doing with a lot of what I theorized in my video today is essentially giving themselves the breathing room to start building Destiny 3. But it's just a question of whether or not they feel like the IP is that strong. Like, we don't want to be contradictory here, right? The IP was weakened when they tried to seed too many projects. You don't want to weaken the IP too much over the next couple of years trying to build Destiny 3 so that when Destiny 3 finally shows up, there's no IP demand. I happen to think that Destiny 3 would be a marketing giant and would be commercially successful. I believe it. I believe in the strength of the IP, even though I haven't been able to touch the dadgum game for over 3 years. I think the IP has potency and power that even after a period of silence or darkness. What's the command? Exclamation point question. So you type exclamation point question, then put a space, and then type your question. It's not even a permaban. It's really weird. Like when I go to the Bungie website and I try to disconnect crossplay, it says that I've been banned for like 180,000 days or something. It's like such an obvious not real ban. It's like the most obvious retaliatory ban I think I've ever seen. It's the second most obvious retaliatory ban I've ever seen. 180,000 days. Oh, that's legit. Somebody just went in and like filled the field with like 9s, I guess. What are your thoughts on the reason for all the Bungie layoffs? Is it a matter of wiping the slate clean, hiring new people, or heading in a new direction? Am I naive? I don't think you're naive for asking these questions. I think these are questions that have answers, though. I think they have answers. I think all you have to do is go and read Pete Parsons' blog. They were operating in the red. You can't do that for very long. You've got to figure out how to stabilize, and a real fast way of doing that is to lay people off and lower your annual production costs. Can you play D1? Probably. They did it through Steam. They went into Steam and did a dev ban, and I was never provided a reason. And whenever I appealed it and asked for a reason or asked them to look at it, they wouldn't talk to me. They would just close the ticket. Recently, when I appealed it, they said this type of ban cannot be appealed. So somebody accidentally replied to me and was like, the level of this ban, like, we can't even do anything about it. Like, the security team has no say in the matter. Which conveniently confirms what a lot of us thought. That, like, somebody pretty high up pulled the trigger. It wasn't like some disgruntled CM. It was like somebody high enough up that, like, the security team's like, We can't even look at this, bro. All right, first question. Top Reply says, if you got your way and they canceled Marathon, what would you do with all the employees? D3, just build on to D2, or something else? I think this is a good question. I think for starters, what I would do is I would say, how do we put Destiny 2 into a better marketable position? That's step one. If you can't get D2 into a marketable position, well, you've got to ask the question, how in the world are you going to make money to keep the company going? Because if they have desires to build a D3, that's going to take a long time, and you need a transition period. You would literally need a 5 or 6 year plan where you slowly start, picture it like a seesaw, you slowly start turning it and sliding people across to work on D3, and eventually you get to the point where more people are working on Destiny 3 than are working on Destiny 2, but it has to be slow. If it's too raucous, you're going to essentially do what they did. They essentially tried to spin up too many projects, and in the process, they devalued Destiny 2, hurt their main moneymaker, and then had to pump the brakes on all of it. You don't want to do that again. So what you have to do is, and this is what I feel they're doing, if you look at the Destiny 2 Frontiers update, and you look at the former Bungie lawyer observation on LinkedIn, it's essentially that they have changed course and are refocusing their efforts on Destiny. This is why I feel like those small incubation projects have been absorbed into Destiny 2. It's why they say they're going to be doing things like a Metroidvania content or roguelike or survival shooter. Survival shooter is what made me think maybe even Marathon got gobbled up by Destiny. And they're like, listen, Marathon won't stand on its own. PlayStation just learned a very valuable lesson with Concord. Trying to make these standalone PvP games is a fool's errand, so let's take everything you built and try to incorporate it somehow into Destiny 2. I mean, we just observed that the code names for the 2 expansions that they announced are Apollo and Behemoth. Now, Apollo could be what we've all been hearing rumors about, is that we're going to go to a new solar system. Behemoth could be monsters based, like big monsters, like that's what behemoths are. The Payback spin-off adventure third-person Destiny game that they were building in the universe of Destiny was allegedly about playing as heroes from the Destiny universe, going into open-world environments on planets that would have monsters and puzzles. That content quite literally could be what Behemoth ends up being, is that they basically took what they could, repurposed it into Destiny. And if they were building other games with other characters, other abilities, and other things, well, a really, really great way to have you experience those things is in a roguelike. You could basically say, hey, when you go to this planet or this simulation, maybe you go into, something like a Corridors of Time or something where they're simulating other realities or memories or something. And they're like, yeah, now you're playing as this guy, this famous Guardian. And he had all these different abilities. And as you're playing through the roguelike, you're acquiring those abilities, those guns. Like if you've ever played a game like Gunfire Reborn, it's a lot like Borderlands, but it's like all shrunk down because like as you're playing, you're getting different weapons with different roles and different abilities. You could do the exact same thing with a roguelike in the Destiny universe. You could essentially say, man, we built all this stuff with the Destiny property, and instead of scrapping it all, let's do a double whammy here. Let's not just refocus bandwidth and talent back to Destiny. Let's bring that content into Destiny so that we have more substance and potentially rub the paddles together and kaboom, save the game to a point where it starts to make money again. And then you can start to entertain the idea of, as this question asked, like, could they actually build a Destiny 3? You don't build a Destiny 3 without a profitable Destiny 2. And that's my answer to the question. That's what I think they'd have to do. It all starts with the refocusing on Destiny 2, bringing talent, bandwidth, content back. And you also have to have a twofold approach here. The game has to be significantly more receptive to new players, and it also has to be coaxing purchases from old players as well. There you go. There's your first. We can use that. Question from Nova Hands, assuming Destiny absorbs Marathon, do you think it will be good for the game, or could it fragment the game and stray too far from the identity? Seems reactionary, which isn't great. Well, this is the beauty of a plan like this. Okay? This is the beauty of a plan like this. If every expansion is kind of a spin the wheel, this one's got roguelike stuff, this one's got Metroidvania, you never know what'll happen. You could strike gold. A really great idea could happen. A really great idea could happen. All of a sudden, a bunch of players come in. And if people come in and like, yeah, we didn't really like that, that's fine. That's fine. It's two medium-sized expansions a year. I think this is how you innovate. What have we been saying lately? Oh, think about the brilliance of this. What have we been saying lately? We've been saying that more games should enter early access because it's in those early stages that you can take risks and you can try and innovate more and try out new things. You see these smaller studios that are able to do this because their game has more agility. These bigger projects are a lot harder, so you end up with games that feel very similar to the last game that they made. If you look at a lot of the elements of Star Wars Outlaws, the stealth is rudimentary and pedestrian, so is the combat, so is the open world systems. It's just a very gamey game. It's like, oh yeah, this is a very mile wide, inch deep sort of game. And so you end up with a game that like basically tried to do too much, and over the course of its period, they just didn't take any risks, and any innovation. So think about what Bungie could do. Every expansion could be one of those incubated teams taking a risk and trying to innovate with the property. That's how you have those moments of like, yo, this is great. I never knew I needed a Destiny 2 roguelike. I never knew I needed a Destiny 2 third-person weapon, whatever, Monster Hunter-inspired infusion of... Who knows? But do you see the brilliance of what they could do here? I'm not hyping up the game. I'm just saying there's potential here for magic to happen. Smaller teams taking risks, trying new things, breaking format, and all of a sudden people are like, yo, this game's kind of fresh. This game's kind of hot, as what Zubair is saying. Soft pilots for new games. This is what you do with your established game, franchise, and engine, instead of just like, well, let's just keep doing the same old, and try and spin up all these other projects. Use the game itself as your test bed. Like, no, let people play these games. Let them try them out. Your engine is one of the best feeling shooter engines in existence. Use that. Use it to your advantage. This is another reason why early access is something that game companies should consider. You've got a core concept and some mechanic ideas and skill tree ideas and weapon ideas. Put out a game, build it out big enough to test with people and let them try it out and get feedback. I was playing that game the other day, Void Bastards, and I was like, this is really creative how they blended two game types, and I don't think you're going to get that type of creativity, innovation, or even blending game genres if you're trying to do these big, giant AAA projects, because you're going to do what the movie companies are doing. You're just going to sort of try to do what everybody else is doing because it's less risky. It's probably more likely that you're going to get return on investment. So Destiny could quite literally use their game to, as was said, soft pilot new games, seed these new games out, and that could then help the direction for Destiny 3. It could also just help make them money. Priority one right now is they got to make money. They got to turn things around. They simply cannot continue going the way that they were going. So, all right, let me look at the next question here. Casual Grinder, haven't seen you in a while. Casual Grinder says, finally got to play the New World beta on the PlayStation 5 and enjoyed it. Do you think it will make a comeback? I always thought that the best place for New World was on console. And the reason for that was it felt like a more mid-lane casual man's MMO. And I do feel like there's a monsoon of players right now who grew up and cut their teeth in like EverQuest and World of Warcraft, but now we're all in our 30s, 40s, and 50s. We have lives, responsibilities, relationships, and we can't play MMOs the way that people played them in the past. So you need a game that's a little bit more approachable and less demanding. New World was one of the most pleasant games to just be in. Chopping trees, mining rocks, fishing. It's actually one of the better looking MMOs in existence with respect to like lighting, graphical fidelity, just the biomes and the settings and the use of color. Okay, so I always said that. Here's why I didn't vibe with New World on console. Now, I'm not saying this means it won't be successful. I'm just going to kind of give you my experience. In general, my experience with New World on console was, okay, I've been here, I've done this, and it doesn't feel good enough to give this game a bunch of my time. And I'm going to explain what I mean. The combat is especially problematic when you're like me. I gravitate toward third-person, open-world, action-adventure games. That's what I gravitate towards. So, you are going to have to give me content that feels really good, really tight, and really enjoyable. And I'm going to make an analogy or a comparison here. Wayfinder has completely rebuilt itself to sort of be like a co-op ARPG looter instead of what they were originally building. And so I tried it out. I was one of the founders, and I never got to play because they were having server issues, and they put the whole game on hold, and now they're kind of relaunching into their 1.0. So I tried it. And I didn't like it. And the reason was the combat just didn't have that tight moment-to-moment feel that I need in a game like that. The gunplay didn't feel that great, so I switched to a melee build in Wayfinder, and it didn't feel like that tight, crisp, moment-to-moment thing that I want. It's one of the reasons why Black Myth Wukong on PlayStation 5, I hope, gets patched, and they stop using frame gen to double the frames because it gives input latency and dropped inputs, and it makes for a really unenjoyable experience, because I think the combat in Black Myth Wukong is really enjoyable and really tight and fun, but when that stuff starts happening and the frame drop starts happening, it's like, no thank you, I'm out. And so to bring it all the way back here to the New World beta, and the point that I'm making is the moment-to-moment combat in New World, it's just not good enough for me to give it the time that I would need to give it. Because that could be a really fun game to couch co-op with my wife, get on the same server, let's chop trees, let's decorate a house, let's go run dungeons. But the combat just doesn't feel good. There's something about it, it feels like, it's like this strange blend, and Wayfinder very much felt like this. Wayfinder was better. Wayfinder felt a lot closer to a more traditional action game where when I hit swing, I swing. When I parry, I parry. It felt closer to that, but it was still a little bit of a queuing system is what it felt like. New World's even further, and it's more in the middle. It's obviously not tabbed targeting, and it's obviously not like a hyper-fast, super realistic, like FromSoft game like Sekiro or something like a Ghost of Tsushima, where like every swing of the sword, every parry, block, dodge, roll, it's all like, you know, really fast and really moment-to-moment. It's like somewhere in the middle. So it has just enough of what feels like a more classic style approach to that combat. It has just enough of that I end up not enjoying it. Now, your question is, do I think it'll make a comeback? I think New World's best shot is on console, but time will tell. Because it obviously didn't have staying power on PC. We'll have to wait and see how it does on console. So. New World leveling felt so good. Endgame, though, it was rough. Yeah, I just think in general, I think they could rework a lot of those systems and it could do well, but it's got a long ways to go. So, question here from Zach Johnson. Zach Johnson asks, what gameplay loops modes from current or other live service games do you think would work in Destiny 2, like an extraction mode similar to Helldivers 2 or something? I mean, I think it's really difficult to do anything in Destiny and not have loot attached in some way. I don't know if you want to go the Borderlands loot pinata method. I do feel like they started to create content where like you get to the end and like stuff's popping out like crazy. But they also started to do something that I do feel that some of the player base started to grade against, which is you're like grinding a currency or grinding a thing, and then you go to an NPC and then you hit a box and you get something. I think they have to absolutely move away from that. I've always said that you cannot underestimate the psychological impact of seeing the thing drop and then checking it right then and there. My Imago loop farm in Destiny 1, my Warden's Law farm in Destiny 2, seeing it drop, checking the roll. The reason that works is because every single time it drops, there's a moment of excitement. When you pick it up and you see the icon, another moment of excitement. And now there's the moment of mystery. Is it going to be a good roll? Is it going to be the roll that I want? Is it going to have the thing that I want? Okay. When you strip that out of the content loop, you quite literally chop the content's legs off. That's my personal opinion. I think the absolute magic, the recipe of Bungie, the recipe of Destiny is this guy drops this thing. This person drops this thing, and it can be great. And here's where you have to apply something I've always said, is that generosity is not the enemy of engagement. It's the promoter of it. All these companies are scared to be generous because there is this false belief that if you're generous, people will get what they want and they will stop playing. It's actually the opposite. When you are generous, it builds confidence in their engagement time because they know they are going to be treated with respect and they're going to get stuff, so they're going to keep coming back. So let's say you establish a content loop where there's a drop at the end every time and they're trying to get this weapon or whatever. And they know the drop rate is good. What does that make them do? It makes them play more. Because what they're doing is they're saying, I'm going to go until I get the good one, and this game is enabling me to do that. If you're stingy, do you know what happens? A lot of players give up because they finally get one, and they're like, I'm done. I finally got it. I don't want to keep going. The drop rate's so terrible. I'm never going to get the one that I want, so I'm done. So what you actually do is being stingy and withholding, you get less engagement. You actually motivate the player to play less. So I think gameplay loops and modes, all in a game like Destiny, they all have to be interwoven with that principle. The way you protect yourself from people basically saying, I got what I want and I'm gone too quickly, is you have to have a generous drop rate with a range of potential. That's the trick. That's the sleight of hand trick that you play. See, whenever they were giving you static rolls, it's like, well, the only thing you can do in that environment is be withholding. Because once they get the gun, they're done. Every gun is the same. Every roll is the same. The sleight of hand trick, how you trick the player's mind is, you're like, we're going to be super generous. You're going to get basically a gun like every single time. And then you have this crazy range of potential. Right? Now the player feels empowered. Because what you're doing is you're creating the very thing that makes slot machines so addicting. There's always a chance, right? Every pull of the lever, there's a chance. And what you're doing is with your game is you're saying, every time the boss dies, there's a chance. So now they're mentally connecting the chance with the boss dying. But what are they going to work for every single day? Every single time they boot up the game, they're going to work for that. Why? Because that's the most potent moment in the game. If you've studied any of the, dopamine and psychological effects of things, it's at its height right before. So if you've been waiting for a gift or you've been waiting for something, you're like at your highest moment of feeling satisfied before you open it. So you make the death of that boss far more potent when you are generous. Now, That's me just applying principle. That's not gameplay or method. So that's a principle you have to put in place. Now, as far as like gameplay types, should you do extraction? Should you do strikes? Should you do, boss rushes? Personally, I have always felt that Destiny was at its best when you were doing one of two things. You were either trying to manage a mechanic while being sort of flooded with enemies. That's challenging for broad appeal gameplay because it requires communication. And then the other thing that's always super, super fun in Destiny is killing the big bad. Killing the big bad. Your most poignant memories in Destiny are watching Oryx float away. Beating vaults of glass. Finally getting that stupid Nightfall Strike boss to die. Those are probably your most potent memories. Your most potent memories are not standing on a plate and telling somebody to step off and throwing a ball. No. Those are not your most potent memories. So I would establish modes that are more centered around big boss fights that include fun mechanics. I would put those two things in a blender and see what pops out. Strip away the need for communication with the mechanic. Make the mechanic simple, but make the mechanic fun. Just off the top of my head, what if you have a really, really big boss and he's got some kind of a shield and you can't damage him, but there's a cannon in the room, like a Scorch cannon. And you have to pick up the Scorch cannon and you have to run through these charging pools to charge it all the way up. And while you're doing that, you're having to maintain there's other enemies in the room. So whoever gets the cannon, that's their job. They're going around there charging it up. And then boom, they shoot the big bad, his shield comes down, and now everybody starts dumping damage on the boss. And you do this 3 times, right? Have 3 phases to the fight. That's just one off the top of my head that I think would be fun because it combines all the things that I think made Destiny so fun. It's okay, I've got a big bad, he's got a mechanic, I've got to move around. So you're combining one of the best things about Destiny is not just its gunplay. One of its best things is its movement. So you're moving around, you're jumping, you're timing your jumps right, you're dodging, you're dodging enemies or whatever, and you're charging up this cannon and then it's very obvious to everybody in the room that it's charged because I don't know, have some kind of a lighting change, right? Once all the pools are drained, the lights in the room go dim and then all you see is the boss with this glowing shield and then the rocket comes from out of frame because the guy's over here. Shield goes down and you just bake the frick out of him and then it resets, right? He draws power, re-shields up, and it creates the pools again, and the cannon is dead because you overcharged it and it blows up in your hand or whatever. It doesn't hurt you. That right there is fun because there's so many different things that you're doing. You're managing ads. Maybe you're charging the cannon. Maybe you're shooting the cannon. Maybe you're doing crazy DPS because you got a really great role or you really know how to do DPS or whatever. Doing all those things, then seeing the boss drop, and then apply my principle of make it rewarding and make it have good loot drops and make it have good opportunities to get good loot. Just build that. Just build really fun, very accessible mechanic boss fights, and then be generous with your loot. That's the kind of stuff I think that people remember and keep coming back to because remember what I said about the First Ascendant? I said one of the best things about First Ascendant is one of the worst things about the First Ascendant. It's a mindless shooter that requires no thought, but that's what works against it because it's not memorable. I don't have any memorable anything in First Ascendant other than, booty cheeks and skins that are obscenely revealing. Those are the memories we all have, seeing them on Twitter and laughing at how absurd it is. But to me, I have memories of Destiny that I'll have for my whole life. I remember the first time I helped my dad figure out how to get the 7th dungeon in The Legend of Zelda on the regular Nintendo, and I remember the first time we saw Oryx die. Those are memories that I have. So give me that. And give me drops. And I'll keep playing. And so will others. That's it. That's my answer to that question. Bushin Ryucat with a question. If Sony makes a play to get Halo on PlayStation, maybe even buy 343 Industries, since Sony also has a working relationship with Bungie, could they negotiate to get Halo back with Bungie? No. No, like this feels like a PlayStation podcast fan fiction question. Like, no offense, Bushin, but no. No. I don't think there's a universe where Sony makes a play for Halo or 343 Industries. Number one, Halo as a brand doesn't have the power that it used to. And number two, I don't see Microsoft ever doing that. I don't see them ever parting ways with that. Number three, I don't know why you'd buy 343. They don't have a great track record. It's not entirely their fault. It's not entirely their fault, but it doesn't have a great track record. Destiny movement sucks. Play Warframe. Why aren't you playing Warframe then? You're here right now. Top reply with a question. Do you think there can be a resurrection of Destiny 2? Horrible new player onboarding, and I believe the target audience has aged out. Yeah, I kind of already answered this question earlier rather extensively when someone said, it was you, top reply. You said if you got your way, canceled Marathon, D3, D2. Yeah, I feel like I already answered your question in that one. It was a rather lengthy answer. I think it was almost 5 minutes. Neo Reaper says, if Marathon exceeds all expectations and blows up, what happens to Destiny? I mean, I don't think that would happen, but let's just entertain the thought. Let's say Marathon has a Fortnite moment. Right? You guys have 10 minutes, and we're going to go to Writer's Room. If you want to boost this to 50, do it. If it hits 100, I'll do another gauntlet. I'll do a 50 bomb if you guys scramble, but you've only got 10 minutes. Let's see it. I'll do a 50 bomb of members because we didn't get a chance to do that last week. You guys didn't get a chance to make Madam play more Astrobot. So to answer your question, Neo Reaper, if they pull the rabbit out of the hat and Marathon is like a Fortnite and it just explodes and no one quite understands why. It's oh my gosh, what's going on? Is there unforeseen growth, explosion, and I mean, if that were to happen, then they would probably slowly do a bandwidth shift and ensure that they could make the most out of Marathon. But then I think what they would also do, and this is what my recommendation to them would be, is I would take a lot of that money and I would try to fund Destiny 3. Thank you so much, Joker Quinn, for gifting a member. Goes to 31 on the day. He's like, come on, boys, we can all band together and we can do this. So to me, it's like, I still think Destiny 3 is too valuable and too potent to not do. It's just a matter of how do you build the bridge to get there? And if Marathon exceeded all expectations and blows up and has like a Fortnite moment, if I was in the room, I would say, everybody calm the frick down. Drink your champagne, throw your confetti. We have got to figure out how to make this fund Destiny 3. Do you want to know why? It won't last. Even if Marathon is explosively popular when it comes out, Helldivers 2 was. And they made a ton of money, but now look. Ruthless Blaxican with 4 months of memberships. Thank you so much. If you guys upgrade to Member Plus or VIP, it counts as 2. When you renew a standard membership, I can't count you in the count because I can't tell if it's gifted or not. YouTube doesn't let me see that. So that's why we have those other tiers. There it is. Top reply upgrades to Member Plus. That counts as 2 members and bumps it to 33. You guys get there really quickly with those upgrades. Thank you, Top reply, for doing that. D3 is a long-term goal for Bungie then? I don't know if it's their long-term goal, homie. I think it should be. My apologies, didn't know I was upgraded. No problem. I think it should be their long-term goal. It's too... Okay, I just want you to track with me here. Stop thinking about the financials for just a second. Imagine that they chart a course and Bungie and let's say Destiny 2 goes into coast mode and largely goes quiet after about 2 years of whatever this Frontiers episode's effort is. Okay? They go dead quiet. I want you to think 2029 rolls around. We're on the cusp of new hardware, the PlayStation 6, whatever Xbox has planned. Ruthless Blackskin upgrades to Member Plus. Look how fast you guys can make this move with just upgrades. 35. There it is. Another 2 to add to the pile. Thank you, Ruthless Blackskin. They go quiet in about 2 years. So, it's 2026. And then 3 years later, you hear the classic Destiny song, that soaring trumpet. And then the light comes up and you see the Traveler. And then all they do is put a 3 in front of it. I'm here to tell you that people would lose their dadgum minds. They would lose their dadgum minds. And you don't want to know how I know this? A much weaker IP did this, and it was insanely exciting and insanely hyped up. And I think the trailer had like crazy viewership. Do you guys remember when they went a really long time and we weren't even sure it was ever going to happen, and they released that Borderlands 3 teaser? Do you remember that? The Borderlands 3 teaser has 2.6 million views. Right? It's got to be one of the most watched Borderlands pieces of marketing that they have ever done. And Borderlands doesn't have the pull, and Borderlands doesn't have the notoriety and the top of mind awareness and the market reach and the power and the potency of Destiny. I just seriously think about that. The power of silence and then shattering the silence with just that. Borderlands 4 just beat it, I think. Oh, did it really? Well, doesn't that prove the point? Borderlands 4 teaser, 3.2 million views. Adding to my argument, Borderlands 4 teaser got more views than Mask of Mayhem in less than a month. Yeah. Do you ever wonder why? People are dying for a new good looter shooter. And Borderlands 3 wasn't even received that well. It didn't even do that well. Are you kidding me? You don't think a Destiny 3 teaser would like break the world? People are like, oh my gosh, they did it. Destiny is 10 times the game and popularity and global awareness and global popularity that Borderlands will ever be. Destiny is significantly bigger. Does the movie suck? I mean, that might have played into their hand. Not a bad point. But do you see what I'm talking about? How does Bungie survive that long? I said, don't think about the financials. Don't think about the financials. I am merely arguing that they have potency with that name. Just that trailer alone would be insanely highly viewed, insanely popular. There is demand for a Destiny 3. Borderlands 3 teaser proves it. Borderlands 4 teaser proves it. They go silent, somehow figure out the financials to endure the silence and the non-delivery of high-paid content to Destiny 2, and they build Destiny 3, and they roll out that trailer in 2029, and it's a next-gen PlayStation 6 whatever game as well as PC and whatever Xbox is doing. I'm here to tell you, it would be a commercial monster. It would be a commercial monster. Every single person who has ever played Destiny 1 or 2 over the last 10 years is a potential customer. You're dreaming if you think that PlayStation's going to just sit on a long-standing 10-year IP and be like, oh, no, that's fine. Just ride off into the sunset, Bungie. No, that's fine. There's no way they let them do that. That's so many potential customers to be like, I'll buy the base version of Destiny 3 and check it out. I played Destiny 1. I played Destiny 2. Everybody that has ever played the game is a potential customer. That is a ton of people over 10 years. I absolutely can't see PlayStation not pushing for that to become a thing. PlayStation might just fund it. That's exactly right, Michael Doe. They might just fund it and say, listen, we got your operating costs under control. We canceled all this other crap, and we gutted out all the toxicity. Let's build a dadgum game here. Let's build a franchise, like the former lawyer said. Let's build a franchise. Let's do it. I think they could. I think it's highly likely that they will. Lone Wolf says, have you figured out your plan for Starfield with Shattered Space coming out in the next 2 weeks? I don't know. It looks like they did a deep dive. They released a deep dive that we're going to have to check out. And then that will inform my decision. So, all right, last question. We got to go to Writer's Room. Besides hubris, why would Bungie leadership think that they could expand as fast as they tried? I think they counted their chickens before they were hatched. I think they saw the trajectories of what they were making off of Destiny 2. And I think they thought they could keep making that. I think that they thought the cash cow was gonna keep paying the bills. That's what I think. And it didn't happen. Like, they quite literally sabotaged their own plans. It was like taking a bunch of gas out of the car and not continuing to tune up the race car and putting those things into other vehicles and thinking that the race car could maintain its speed. It was like, nope, you guys took too much. You took too much for the car to maintain speed. And when the car started to slow down, it rippled out throughout the entire company. It rippled out into the entire company. It affected everything at that point. All right, you guys have 3 minutes to scramble to 100, and I'll drop a 50 bomb. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, but you do have 3 minutes. I'm setting up the Writer's Room redirect right now. If you got to bat signal the big boys, if you got to get a bunch of people to upgrade to Member Plus, thank you to everybody who continues to upgrade to Member Plus, man. So helpful. It helps us do extra content. We're going to do a PC building stream once we hit the big milestone of 1,000 Member Plus and above. And currently we're at 551. It's always in flux. We're trying to hit 600. If we hit 600 Member Plus and above, I'll do an IRL stream on the weekend and also do the Date Everything video game that you guys want to see me play for whatever reason. I hope they learn from Concord's failure. I hope so too. PC building? Yeah. I'll try to remember including RAM in the PC when I build it, as well as a GPU. I'll try to remember to not buy a pre-built from Best Buy for $1,400. I'll try to be smarter, you know. I'll try my best to be smarter than the PC folks out there, you know. I'll do my best. Oh. Oh, golly. Make sure that you also get a good PSU as well, and not one that only barely supports the amount of watts your rig takes up. All these bargain bin PC builds out here, dude. The power supply is barely strong enough to run the GPU. Yeah, but it's better than the PS5 Pro. Oh, listen, before we go to Writer's Room, when I predicted that the PS5 Pro would be market disruptive, I didn't mean that way. I didn't know it was going to make people literally turn into cavemen. You don't need a CPU. The operating system is in the hard drive. Just, yeah. All right, let's get out of here. All right, I want to put a link to... Oh, wait, Chris Lee. I'm sorry. Chris Lee just renewed their Member Plus. That bumps the line to 36. Thank you so much. Not quite enough. You guys are behind the 8 ball now a little bit. We're going to have a bigger day tomorrow to stay on pace for that weekly goal. But no worries. We've done it before in the past. We'll keep it going. I'm going to spam a link in chat. If you can't come to Writer's Room because you're not currently a member, consider clicking join. For $6 a month, just 6, you get access to all of the extra members' content. Morning coffee in the morning. You get to start the day with me. Writer's Room at the end of the day. Behind the scenes look at what we do. And as well as those IRL streams on the weekend if we do them, or Friday night streams with my wife. So if you want to support the channel directly and come to this extra content, it's $6 and it covers you for the whole month. All right. Thank you so much to everybody who's already done that. And that's the link in chat to the Writer's Room. Thanks so much for becoming a member recently, especially those of you who have upgraded to Member Plus. We are at like 551. It's always a little bit in flux. We had some people do it today. Remember, anytime you upgrade to Member Plus or VIP, any of those upgrades, if you do that during the stream, I count it as 2 for the weekly member goal. So you don't have to gift members. You don't have to only be a new member. Just those upgrades are counting as well. And thank you to everybody who continues to do that, as well as those who continue to gift members. I'm going to end the live stream where we were talking about whether or not Destiny has absorbed Concord. I'm going to end that and bring people over. Not absorbed Concord, absorbed Marathon. Derp. Let me see here. Let me change.